Welcome back to this little accounting series I'm making. My name is Taylor, and today we're going over the financial statements. As accountants, we prepare financial statements at the end of the fiscal year,
which is any 12-month period used for accounting purposes.
These statements tell our investors exactly where we are financially, and they're kind of the whole reason we account for things in the first place. These are the four statements that you need to know about, and if you don't know what they're called or the equations we use to prepare them, go ahead and take a screenshot. You may notice that the statement of cash flows doesn't have an equation listed with it. That's because it's kind of complicated, and I'll go ahead and cover that statement in a different video, and today we'll just focus on the first three. The first statement we prepare is the income statement, which will probably look something like this. The income statement is going to tell us how much of our revenues went towards our expenses, and it's going to culminate in our net income or loss. If that sounds like an equation, it's because it is. It's pretty simple. If you have more revenues than you do expenses, then you've got a net income. And if it's the other way around, well, you've got a net loss. The next statement we prepare is the statement of retained earnings, and it'll look something like this. It's going to tell us exactly how much we have at the end of the year to put towards business activities next year. Let's take a look at the equation. We take our retained earnings from last year, which we call beginning retained earnings. We add or subtract our net income or loss, and then we subtract our dividends, and what we're left with is our retained earnings. The final statement I'm going to talk about today is the balance sheet.
I somehow managed to forget to put a balance sheet in, so this is an oversimplified version of it.
This is the statement you're probably going to hear about the most because it uses what we call the accounting equation. Remember from my other video that because we are tracking our economic benefit from a source to a destination, our debits and credits will always be equal. Similarly, our assets are always going to be equal to the combination of our liabilities and equity.
And that's called the accounting equation.
This is because assets represent what we have, liabilities represent what we owe, and stockholders' equity represents what we actually own. If we rearrange the equation to look something like this, you'll notice that what we're actually saying is that what we own is equal to what we have minus what we owe. Let's look at an example. Say there are two people, Anne and Lisa. Anne lives in a big house with a fancy car and lots of expensive things laying around. For the purposes of this example, let's say her assets total to $100,000. Well, let's also add that she paid for all of these things with a loan, and for various reasons, she owes the bank $95,000. That makes her equity, or what she actually owns, only $5,000. Now, say we compare her with Lisa, who doesn't have all the things that Anne does. Her assets total to $20,000. Now, if we were to just compare what they have, we would think that Anne was in a better financial position. After all, she does have significantly more assets than Lisa does. But if we consider the fact that Lisa only has $5,000 of debt compared to Anne's $95,000, we would find that Lisa is in a far better financial position than Anne. That's why the balance sheet is so important. It compares our assets, liabilities, and equities and tells us exactly where we stand financially at the end of the year. Unlike the other financial statements, the balance sheet is only a snapshot of our financial standing during one specific moment in time. It's not going to show you assets you had in January if you don't have them in December. Throughout the year, you may have to prepare trial balances, which are very similar to a balance sheet, but are instead used for a sort of internal review. And I'm sure I'll cover that in another video. If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you so much for sitting down and studying with me today. I really hope this helped you out, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Good luck studying, and I'll see y'all in the next one.